morning she would gather all her island fruits as we get ready for breakfast with Bob. Breakfast with Bob.
Honcho Man! Welcome to day 3 of Breakfast with Bob. We're beautiful. We're here at beautiful Huggles on the Rocks. Brought to you by EAS, Myoplex, Hoka, One, Polar, Velo, Fix, Normatec. Four Seasons Walleye. We'll be doing our championship edition there on Sunday. And Amio Power Breather, our next guest, 4-time Ironman world champion, undefeated in 13 iron distance races. And this evening, she will be inducted into the Ironman Hall of Fame, Chrissie Wellington. So good to have you.
There's quite a crowd here today.
Look at that, huh?
Fantastic, yeah.
Free breakfast usually draws them in.
And drew me in as well.
Oh, you see? I knew you were going by. Since you were up since what, 2 in the morning?
2 in the morning. We have a daughter that seems to think that 2 in the morning is acceptable time to wake up. So the last 2 wake-up calls have been quite early.
Nice.
Yeah.
And she doesn't go back to bed then?
No. But luckily we have the Kona coffee, so we've been indulging in that.
So she's pretty mellow and not stubborn at all, like Mom?
No, not willful, and no, not stubborn, doesn't know her own mind, not running around everywhere, no, pretty sedate, pretty calm.
Yeah, I guess that's not true. So when you come back to this island, and you had, so much of your life was built on this island in terms of your career, your podium, and we've talked about that a lot, the platform. When you first won this race, it was like the light bulb went on, and you knew that it put you in a position to be able to talk to young girls and women and say, you can do anything you want to do.
Yeah, ever since I was young, I really wanted that platform, and I didn't know what form it would take. And it struck me very, very strongly when I crossed that finish line in 2007, 10 years ago now, that having that title gave me that platform to drive positive change. And it was so fantastic to come back. It is so fantastic to come back. And I was sitting yesterday with Esme, our daughter, watching the splash and dash.
Yes.
And looking at the next generation of triathletes coming through, and just hoping that myself and the rest of the professional athletes can inspire them to achieve great things.
So with being 10 years ago, and when you flash back to that, you had just won Ironman Korea, but it's not like you came here as a favorite. People really didn't know that much about you. What did you know about this place? And you're racing, I guess, because you had not that long ago been doing ITU racing. You were racing people who are big names in our sport who you didn't know, right? Didn't know that much about.
Yeah, I really didn't know that much about the sport, and my coach at the time, Brett, kind of shielded me from that. I think he thought that ignorance and naivety would be my strength, and I think that turned out to be the case. But I was staying halfway up the volcano. I had no car. I was cycling to and from the swimming pool with all the groceries on my back, with my big rucksack. And I remember the couple of days before the race, I didn't have a race kit, so I went out and bought my Tia Tankini. And then my pedals broke. I didn't know where to get them replaced. I certainly couldn't afford to buy a new pair, so I went to this car mechanics shop and got them to put some kind of industrial glue in the pedals. So I spent the whole 180K just praying that my pedals weren't going to fall apart. So that's probably why I was smiling so much when I got into the run, because I was thankful at least I had two pedals. But yeah, I think the weight of expectation that came thereafter wasn't there in that first year. So I simply could just go out there and enjoy it with absolutely no pressure. And I think that elevated me. 2011. 2010, you couldn't start the race. We were sick. 2011, 2 weeks before, crash badly. You have really bad road rash, compromise your ribs, everything else. I think this day in 2011, Wednesday, is when you were in the hospital getting your wounds scrubbed out. Did you even think you could go to the starting line that day? When I crashed, I didn't think I could go to the starting line in the days after that. But on the Wednesday before, I was determined to start. And if I'm brutally honest, I think having that accident, whilst I wouldn't wish it on anyone, actually was quite liberating in that I had no expectations. Again, so
right.
it was like going back to 2007.
Interesting, yeah.
So I could just go into the race thinking, well, I'm going to start and I'm just going to do the best that I can, and no one expects anything of me. No one expects me to win. The pressure is off my shoulders. I didn't have as much pressure. I didn't place as much pressure on my shoulders. So although I was physically compromised, I don't think I was mentally kind of suppressed with the kind of pressure that
Sure.
I'd experienced in the previous years. So, it was. On reflection, it was the race I'd always dreamed of. I'd always craved that race where I dug to the very, very depths physically, and I dug to the very, very depths psychologically, and that I had that battle with my competitors that I'd craved, really, really craved, and that race gave me that. So it wasn't the perfect race, but to me, it was the perfect race, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. We were just chatting with Mark Allen, and he was like, he'd never been 13 minutes behind like he was in his last race, and the fact that he doubted himself and then ended up winning the race, very similar to you. You know, you're swimming, came out of the water further back than you've ever been. I was with your folks out at Javi, and they were freaking out. 'Cause usually at that point, Chrissie's already kissing babies and signing autographs during the bike ride. But she was behind by a lot. And the family, what's going on? What's happening? I'm like, well, this is a race, and we're going to see what happens. But then when you went into the lead, and you still had Miranda Carfrae behind you, one of the best runners in the sport, and you had to basically match her pace for pace during that run to win that title. And so that's why it meant so much to you, the fact that you overcame all of that.
Yeah, I think I answered all the questions that I'd ever asked of myself. You know, how deep could you dig? How much can you hurt? How hard can you fight? And I proved something to myself in that race. And I crossed the finish line. I was annihilated, but I was also so relieved. And again, in some way, kind of liberated. I felt that was the race that had defined me. That was the race I'd always been searching for. And I knew at that point that the time was right to retire, because that race, that experience couldn't ever have been beaten. No matter how fast I may have gone in the future, how many more times I may have won or not, I don't think that race experience could have been beaten. And for me, that was the definition, I guess, of success.
So I know this afternoon, book signings, your new book, To the Finish Line. Where will you be?
I'm doing a Q&A with Steph from Wits Up at 2:00, and then doing a signing 3 till 4 at the expo.
And for people around the U.S., aren't you going to San Francisco? You've got some other stuff coming up.
Yeah, I've been in New York, in Los Angeles, and then heading to San Francisco after. I really enjoy the book tour. It's an opportunity to connect with people that I don't have in my day-to-day life anymore. So
right.
I'm really, really, really enjoying it at the moment.
And being a mom, is it the best?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's given me balance. It's given me perspective. It's given me a new challenge, and it's given us the opportunity to be a family. And I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's no doubt it's challenging. But it's so wonderful to come back here. But it's even more so to see it through her eyes. I think we come here and we take it for granted, or we just focus on the race and we forget to look at the ocean or the fish or the flowers and all the things that little, nearly 2-year-olds appreciate, and that we really should appreciate if we took the time just to slow ourselves down a little bit. So it's really nice to come back here and enjoy the race and meet up with people, but to see it through her eyes.
Tonight, you're going to be inducted into the Ironman Hall of Fame, which you retired in 2001, and here it's 5 years later, and you're inducted really in the first opportunity. What does that mean to you?
It's really hard to put into words. Someone asked me the other day, just in 3 words, what did it mean to be inducted? And it was really, really difficult, and I'm never really lost for words. I was so proud. Proud.
Really?
Yeah. Proud and humbled, and so just so happy and thrilled. And what meant the most was that it was I found out via a personal phone call. From
not some email.
Yeah, not an email, just a personal phone call from Ironman, from Heather Ferrer Ironman, and she'd taken the time to call me, and that meant so much. Ironman is a big corporation, but it proved to me then that they still have that personal touch,
yes,
and I was really, really grateful for that. And subsequently I got an email from Paula, And for Paula to send me an email and say congratulations, and to know that now I'm kind of standing on the shoulders of some really tall giants in being inducted, just makes me really proud. I'm very, very humbled, and it gives me the opportunity to come back here, and it gives me the opportunity to have the platform that I really do appreciate.
And how hard was it to leave the racing side?
It's incredibly difficult. Physically, yes, you need to detrain, and you have to accept that's part of retirement, is that detraining process. I think it's very, very important, was very important to me. But psychologically, incredibly challenging. Your sense of identity, the self-validation that comes every day from training and from racing, and other things, the financial security, your sense of self-worth, the structure, the goal, all of that. But I also knew that I was somebody before triathlon, and that I was so much more than a title or than an athlete. And I had to remember that, and I had to be kind to myself in the years after retirement, and then set new goals, and accept that nothing ever comes close to the sensation of crossing that finish line in first place. You can't replicate it, but nor should you try to.
That's the thing.
You should just try and seek satisfaction from other things, and things that might not put you on top of the world, but are nonetheless meaningful and impactful. So I've been trying to do that and carve out a life that is kind of gratifying and satisfying and full of challenge and goals, and one that makes myself and my family happy. So I wouldn't say it was easy, especially in the first few years, but I'm in a really happy, content, satisfied place.
Love it. Chrissie Wellington, everybody, the newest inductee into the Ironman Hall of Fame. Poncho Man doing the limbo. Good job. Way to limbo up there, Poncho boy.
More flexible than me.
Oops. And watching Breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man, another round of applause for Chrissie Wellington. The book signing is at what time?
I'll be doing a talk at 2 and book signing at 3.
I went there to take a picture.